The morning light over Dahlia Main had a way of softening everything peeling paint on the post office. The rusting swings at Hollow Park, even the police tape still fluttering from the night before. It was only 7:13 a.m. when Anna Morrell's neighbour noticed her front door wide open. The old woman across the street, Mrs. Kensington, thought it was odd Anna was careful. Too careful. But she chalked it up to distraction and walked her poodle past without looking inside. By 9:42 a.m, a patrol car sat quietly outside Anna's home. Officer Jim Reyes stepped out, one hand resting casually on his belt. It should have been nothing welfare check, maybe a false alarm. But inside the 2-story Victorian house on Briar Street, something didn't sit right. The living room was clean, undisturbed, save for a spilled mug of coffee that had soaked into a stack of old mail. Upstairs, Anna's bed was made. Her closet was untouched. The back door was unlocked but not forced. There was no blood, no signs of struggle, just the note. It was laid neatly on the kitchen table, written in shaky block letters with a blue ink pen. It read, "I'm sorry I can't do this anymore." But here's the problem: Anna's handwriting was small, slanted, careful. She dotted her I's with tiny circles. The note was none of those things. Reyes called it in. Detective Evelyn Shaw arrived by noon. She had a habit of moving through houses like they might breathe if she startled them. Slow, deliberate eyes always scanning corners. She stood over the note silent for a long time. Then she turned to Reyes. She didn't write this. It wasn't just the handwriting. Anna was a therapist, a meticulous planner, the survivor of a messy divorce and a recent stalker scare. Shaw found Anna's journals stacked beside her bed, her neat cursive sprawling with quotes from patients' song lyric schedules. There was no mention of suicidal ideation, no final words, no warning. By 1:20 p.m. they'd interviewed the neighbours. No one saw her leave, no one heard a car. Anna's phone was missing. Her purse was gone. Her running shoes were not. But her cat was still inside, unfed. That evening, her sister Margaret arrived red-eyed and gripping a half-crumpled coffee cup. She confirmed everything Anna wouldn't have left without telling someone. She wouldn't have left the cat, and she sure as hell wouldn't have written a note like that. Shaw agreed. I think someone wants us to believe she gave up. That night, security footage from a traffic camera 2 blocks away revealed a dark blue sedan slowing near Anna's house at 3:11 a.m. The brake lights flared, then it pulled out of frame. The license plate was unreadable, but the silhouette of the driver was clear enough. It was a man. The timestamp matched a storm that had passed briefly through town. The sound of thunder, perhaps, was why no one heard the door. 2 days later, they found Anna's phone wedged under a park bench 20 miles north, powered off, the battery drained. It had a crack through the screen, and dirt along the edges as if someone had tossed it, hoping it wouldn't be found. But it was what was inside that changed everything. In the notes app was a draft never sent. "M? He's back. Same blue car. I saw him near the house again tonight. If anything happens to me." It ended there, mid-sentence. Detective Shaw felt the floor shift beneath the case. This wasn't a disappearance. This was a warning. And whoever left that note in the kitchen didn't just want Anna gone. They wanted it to look like she vanished on her own. Cliffhanger Shaw scrolled through the phone one last time before evidence lockup, and noticed something odd in the voice memos folder, an audio file dated 4 days before the disappearance. It was only 13 seconds long. Anna's voice whispered, "He's in the house." Then silence, a faint floorboard creak, and the soft sound of breathing that wasn't hers. The sound was unmistakable, a low, shallow exhale hovering too close to the mic. The kind of breath that doesn't come from fear comes from watching, waiting. Detective Evelyn Shaw played the recording 5 times. First through her phone, then through headphones, then through the department's forensic audio software, scrubbing it frame by frame like a surgeon searching for a tumour. She isolated the waveform of Anna's whisper. The creak, the breath. She slowed it, amplified it, looped it. The breath was male, heavy, intentional. Shaw leaned back in her chair, her own breathing slowed. She recorded him, she muttered, while he was already inside. It meant he wasn't just watching from the street anymore. He had been in the house 4 days before she vanished, and she'd known. Maybe she couldn't prove it. Maybe no one believed her, but she knew. Evelyn looked again at the metadata. Time recorded 2:46 a.m, date 4 days before the disappearance, which meant if he came back, he did it again. She contacted Digital Forensics and ordered a deep scan of Anna's home network. The router logs confirmed someone had attempted to connect via an unfamiliar device at 2:48 a.m. that same night. An anonymous MAC address, failed connection, no data transferred, Then again, 2 nights later, this time successful. Was it a phone, a laptop, Shaw asked? Could have been either. Could be someone trying to clone her network. Or worse, the tech said. Could be someone watching through her own devices. That night, Evelyn drove back to the house. She'd been there enough that the place no longer felt like someone else's home, just a puzzle missing corners. She stood in Anna's kitchen where the note had been found. Then she moved to the hallway. The mirror there still bore a faint smudge fingerprints, but not usable. She followed the creak in the voice memo. Tested the floorboards. 5 steps in, and one groaned under her weight, just like the recording. She stared at the stairwell. If someone had come up that night, Anna would have heard it. Or maybe she already had. Upstairs in Anna's bedroom closet behind a row of scarves and coats, Evelyn found something she hadn't noticed before. A small black box, dusty, locked with a sliding panel. Inside journals. Not the daily kind, these were different. No dates, just moments, names, warnings. Anna had been keeping track of something. Someone. One page read, "He's calling himself James now." Same voice, different number, pretending to be a client. 3rd time this week. Another. I blocked him. He used a new number within hours. Always knows when I'm alone. Evelyn recognised the handwriting instantly, Anna's precise looping cursive. This wasn't paranoia. This was documentation. The same man. Reaching, changing masks, getting closer. Then a final page. He said, "You left something at the lake house." I never told anyone about that place. Evelyn's pulse quickened. She had never seen a mention of any lake house. It wasn't listed in Anna's address history. Not in her will. Not in her family's records. She called Margaret. There was a place wasn't there, Evelyn asked. A lake house. A long pause. "Yes," Margaret finally said. "When we were kids. My grandfather left it to our mother, but we stopped going. After... What happened with Anna? What happened? She was 13. She got lost in the woods, overnight. They found her near the edge of the water. She never talked about it again." The line went quiet, but Margaret added that place has been abandoned for over 20 years. We don't even have keys. Evelyn didn't answer. She was already looking up satellite images, and she found it. Nestled between overgrowth and broken shoreline 28 miles outside Dahlia. The roof caved in, the porch buried under pine needles. A place lost to memory. By morning she was there. The lock had rusted off. The inside smelled of moss and rot. She stepped carefully wood planks groaning underfoot and found the main room intact. A collapsed bookshelf, old fishing gear. But upstairs in the attic, something new. A cot, a lantern, empty food wrappers, fresh boot prints in the dust. Someone had been staying there. Recently, on the windowsill a photograph. Water-stained curled at the edges. It was Anna. She was standing at the lake's edge. 13, maybe 14, smiling. And beside her was a boy, face partially torn by water damage. But his hand was gripping her wrist too tightly for a child's game. Scrawled on the back 1979, she never really left. Cliffhanger. As Shaw turned to leave, her phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. No name, just a sentence. "Detective, if you're reading your notes, then you're next." Evelyn Shaw froze. The phone's glow pulsed in the dark attic, casting harsh shadows over the rotting wood and the photograph in her hand. "Detective, if you're reading her notes, then you're next." Her thumb hovered over the screen. The number was unlisted. No name. The text disappeared after 5 seconds, auto-deleting like a message that didn't want to leave fingerprints. Someone had been watching her. Someone knew she'd found the attic. The journal. The truth Anna was piecing together before she disappeared. And now, they were watching her too. Outside, the woods swallowed the lake in early morning fog. Evelyn scanned the tree line. No birds, no wind, just stillness, as if something was holding its breath. She didn't drive back to town, not yet. Instead, she called Reyes and ordered 2 patrol cars to canvass the perimeter roads and nearby trails. If the man had stayed here, he'd need a way in and out. Back inside, Evelyn searched the rest of the house. In the crawl space beneath the stairs, she found a rusted tin box wrapped in a mouldy towel. Inside a flip phone, prepaid, battery drained, no charger. She slipped it into an evidence bag and slid it into her coat. It smelled of pine and gasoline. As she exited, she noticed something else scratches on the inside of the front door. Faint but deliberate. Vertical gouges. Like someone had tried to claw their way out, or tried to mark the number of nights they'd stayed. 5 tallies. 5 nights. Back in her SUV, Evelyn placed the photo on the passenger seat and opened Anna's journals again. She flipped through until she found a page she'd missed. It keeps changing names. But the lake, that's where it began. I think he was there back then, watching. Anna must have known the boy in the photo, or at least remembered him. Evelyn zoomed in on the image with her phone. The face was half obscured by the water damage, but the boy's posture was aggressive, possessive almost. Protective or predatory. It was hard to say, but it didn't look like a family picture. It looked like a warning frozen in time. Back at the station, the techs had powered up the burner phone from the lake house. It had only one number saved in its contacts, just a first name Ray. The last text received dated 2 nights before Anna disappeared. She knows. I saw her looking at the window again. Sure ran the number, no registered user. But the signal had pinged a tower just north of Dahlia along Route 6, close to a now-defunct rest stop. She pulled surveillance footage. It took hours, but at 3:12 a.m, a man in a hooded sweatshirt parked a blue sedan in the lot. No plates visible. He stepped out, stood still for over 20 minutes, never smoking, never pacing, just facing the road, waiting. Then he drove off. They enhanced the footage. The man's face never turned fully toward the camera, but a frame-by-frame review captured one thing, a tattoo. Right wrist. A crude line of ink. Not a symbol, a date. Then 3, says Nestoria. The date Anna was found lost in the woods. The date carved into her childhood like a scar. Evelyn's heart beat faster. She brought the image to Margaret. Margaret leaned forward. That date, it's burned into her memory. She used to wake up screaming it. Did Anna ever mention a name Ray or anyone from that trip? Margaret shook her head. No, but our Uncle Ray Dawson, he died before we were born. Drowned. Same lake, that's what we were told. Evelyn blinked. You're saying there was a Ray in your family, but he died. That's what Mum said. He was 16, drowned in a storm. The body was never recovered. But the man stalking Anna was using that name. Margaret went pale. We always thought Anna saw something that night. That's why she stopped going back. She wouldn't swim anymore, wouldn't even talk about the lake. Not once. Evelyn pulled out the photograph. Margaret took one look at the boy in it and nearly dropped it. That's him. Ray. She nodded. He looks older here, but that's his face. I've seen it in family albums. Evelyn's blood ran cold. If Ray Dawson drowned in 1979, she said slowly, then who the hell is this man using his name, tracking Anna and watching us now? Margaret said nothing, but tears welled in her eyes. She used to say he never left, that he stayed out there in the trees. That night, Evelyn reviewed all the files again. Cross-referenced every Ray Dawson born in Maine. She found 3, all accounted for. None had any connection to Anna. But then she widened the search. Looked at regional psychiatric facilities, foster homes, unresolved runaways, and she found something. A boy named Raymond Dawn, admitted to a youth facility in 1980 under emergency circumstances. No family listed, transferred, released. Then disappeared. No record after 97, but the intake file listed a disturbing note. Subject claims to be watching over a girl named Anna M. Says she belongs to the lake now. Believes they were both chosen. Nightmares, fixation, possibly delusional. Monitor closely. Cliffhanger Evelyn picked up her phone, preparing to call in a psychological profiler when her office lights cut out. The power went dead, and from the hallway came the soft creak of a floorboard, followed by the sound of a voice deep and deliberate just outside her door. Detective Shaw stopped looking. The voice was quiet, but it was close. Evelyn Shaw didn't move. Her hand hovered near the sidearm clipped beneath her desk, her breath caught halfway between instinct and calculation. The hall was pitch dark, only the distant hum of backup power pulsing from the server room. A soft scraping sound followed. Footsteps. Not hurried, not cautious. Purposeful. Then a knock. 1, 2. Deliberate. Her office door trembled just slightly with the second impact. She drew her gun. Please, she said, low and steady. Step away from the door. Silence. She crept sideways and hit the panic button under the desk. A silent alarm would alert 2 officers on the night watch. But even with fast response, they'd take a minute to reach her. A minute was too long. Another knock. But this time it came from the window behind her. She turned sharply. Nothing but the black glass of the 3rd-story office pane. No shadows, no face. But she knew someone was there. Watching. The hallway lights flickered back on. When Reyes and Officer Loring arrived moments later, guns drawn, they swept the corridor. Empty. Security cams outside Evelyn's office caught no one entering or leaving. But the playback glitched for nearly 40 seconds at 1:14 a.m. Exactly when the voice spoke. Someone had cut the feed. Whoever he was close. He wanted her to know he could reach her, that he could walk into the lion's den of a police station and vanish again without a trace. Evelyn reviewed every inch of the third floor with security. No signs of tampering, no prints, but a faint smear across her window finger oil. They'd pulled samples, but Evelyn knew it would come back empty. Because whoever he was, he didn't leave evidence. He left stories. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she dug deeper into the name Raymond Dawn. The boy had spent nearly 5 years in institutional care, transferred between facilities. Each file told a similar story. He was quiet, withdrawn, but highly intelligent, kept to himself, drew pictures obsessively. Most disturbing the drawings, dozens of them. Children, always a girl, sometimes crying, sometimes asleep. Trees, a lake, eyes watching from the branches. And a figure. A tall man with no face, only hands that gripped, pulled, held too long. A recurring caption in the margins. She belongs to the quiet now. When Evelyn visited the archives of St. Killian's Youth Centre, now condemned, she located the original therapist's notes. Water damaged, smudged. But one detail remained. Patient Raymond Dawn claims he lived in the woods for 3 full moons after the lake incident. Says he met a girl there, that she came back later, grown up, that she would always be his. Evelyn drove home under a slate-coloured sky, her phone buzzing every hour with updates, no leads on the sedan. No trace of the burner number, no new sightings. It was like chasing a ghost stitched from static. That night she dreamt of water. Dark water. And a woman's hand reaching up through the surface, fingers twitching in silence, grasping for something that would never come. She woke drenched in sweat. At 5:12 a.m. Reyes called. They'd found something. A hiker northeast of Dahlia had discovered fabric near a deer trail torn tangled in a thicket of thorns. Dark red, cotton, near it a shoe. Running style, women's size 8. Anna's size. 100 yards deeper, half submerged in mud, they found something else. A portable cassette recorder. Old, cheap, covered in grime, but still intact. Back at the station, forensics cleaned the tape. It was 22 minutes long. The first minute wind, footsteps, heavy breathing, then Anna's voice. I'm recording this because I don't know if I'll make it back. I think he's close. I don't know if he followed me from the house, or if he was already out here. He doesn't speak much, just watches. I don't know who he is, but he said something he said we met before, at the lake. But I was just a kid. A pause, then her voice cracked. I remember his eyes now. It was him, the boy, the one who tried to pull me into the water. He said I never screamed, that I wanted to go. The recording hissed, then cut. When it resumed, Anna was crying. If someone finds this, please tell my sister I tried. I fought. But he knows this place too well. He said the lake is where people go when they want to disappear, that it keeps secrets, that I'm one of them. He said I was never meant to come back. Static. And then in the last 10 seconds, a man's voice. Calm, close. Don't worry, Anna, you're almost home. Cliffhanger Evelyn replayed the final words over and over, until she realised something was in the background. A bell. One deep metallic chime, followed by birdsong. She pulled every sound map of the area. Only one location matched both elements. The bell tower at Mercy's Hollow, an abandoned monastery 30 miles from the lake, and off limits for nearly a decade. Mercy's Hollow had been shuttered since 2011. The stone monastery loomed over the forest like a relic misplaced by time, 4 floors of broken arches, dust-caked altars and long-forgotten prayers. A fire in the west wing had made it unsafe, but local legend claimed other reasons for its silence. People said the monks left in a hurry, that something was found buried beneath the chapel. But Evelyn Shaw didn't care about ghost stories. She cared about the sound, the bell, and the girl who hadn't come back. By sunrise, she was outside its rust-covered gate, flanked by Reyes and a tactical entry team. No footprints, no signs of forced entry. But something about the path mud worn smooth in a straight line suggested it had been walked recently, repeatedly, by someone who didn't want to be noticed. They went in through the vestry. The silence swallowed them. Only the crunch of gravel and the slow creak of old beams accompanied their steps. The walls were coated with moss candle wax, frozen mid-drip from long-dead rituals. And yet beneath the rotten ruin, the structure stood strong like it was waiting. Bell towers straight ahead, Reyes whispered. They reached the base of the stairs. Rust flaked off the iron rail. Evelyn nodded, signalling the lead. 2 officers went up first. Slow. Steady. Nothing. At the top, the bell still hung cracked from age, but intact. A frayed rope trailed down the stairwell, and next to it, lying neatly against the stone ledge, was something that didn't belong. A scarf. Anna's, just as Margaret had described. Pale green, embroidered with tiny initials AM. But there was something else. A second recorder, same model as the one found in the woods. It clicked when Evelyn pressed play. Day 2, I think it's day 2, I haven't slept. Anna's voice. He lets me walk sometimes, says I won't go far. Like he knows I won't find a way out. He talks to the walls to the chapel like it's alive. Said I made a promise once by the lake, that I'd come back when I was ready. I don't know what he means. He says he saved me, that no one else ever did. Click. End of tape. Evelyn's throat tightened. She's alive, she said, or she was. The team found out. Reyes signalled from the east wing. They'd found a broken ladder descending into the crypts. Beneath the altar, hidden behind a false wall, a tunnel. Damp, narrow, no light. Let's go, Evelyn said. The passage twisted for over 50 feet, descending into carved stone chambers. Water dripped from cracks above. The walls were lined with rusted metal hooks, chains still attached. And then, a door. Newer than the rest, reinforced, locked from the outside. Evelyn stepped forward, heart pounding, and unlatched the bolt. The door groaned open. Inside a small room, mattress on the floor, a bucket, food wrappers, a lantern, and a woman, sitting with her knees pulled to her chest. Anna. She blinked against the light. Her face was pale lips, cracked eyes, sunken but sharp. Alive. Evelyn knelt beside her. Anna, it's okay, you're safe now. Anna didn't speak, but her eyes locked onto Evelyn's like she was trying to make sure this wasn't another hallucination. Another game. And then she whispered, he's still here. Before Evelyn could respond, the lights flickered. A sound echoed from deep in the tunnels, behind them footsteps. Running. Too heavy to be hers. Get her out, Evelyn yelled to Reyes. Now! Reyes hoisted Anna up, supporting her as she stumbled. The other officers moved fast, retreating up the tunnel. Evelyn stayed. Her flashlight swept the passage. The footsteps had stopped. But something was moving closer. Too fast. She aimed her gun. Show yourself. Nothing. Then a whisper, his voice echoing softly in the stone. She broke her promise. A shadow darted past her peripheral vision. Too fast. She fired once, twice. Nothing but wall. The silence that followed felt wrong. Pressurized. Like the tunnel itself was holding its breath. And then the whisper again right beside her ear. She was mine. Evelyn turned, but no one was there. Only a thin slit carved into the far wall, just wide enough for a man to vanish through. A passage she hadn't seen. By the time backup arrived and they gave chase, the trail was gone. The tunnel curved into a collapsed shaft. Dust still floated from where he'd slipped through. Whoever he was, he knew the monastery, knew the tunnels, the exits. He'd prepared. He left the girl alive, but not out of mercy, out of obsession, and he was still out there. Cliffhanger. As Anna sat in the recovery tent, wrapped in blankets, trembling hands holding warm tea, she finally spoke clearly. You're not chasing a man. She looked up at Evelyn. You're chasing a boy who never grew up. The hospital room was quiet. Midday light pooled on the floor tiles like melted glass. Anna Morell sat upright in the bed, her shoulders too still, her gaze locked somewhere just past Evelyn Shaw's shoulder, as if expecting someone to step through the door, or crawl out from underneath it. He talks like he's still 13, Anna said, like time froze for him. Evelyn leaned forward, notepad untouched in her lap. What do you mean? Anna's voice was hoarse. The boy I met at the lake, he never left. Not really, not mentally. He remembered everything from that night, but not like an adult does. He repeated things, word for word, like an echo. Evelyn felt her chest tighten. Did he hurt you? Anna shook her head. Not how you'd think. She looked down, fingering the edge of her blanket. He thought he was protecting me. He made me meals, told me stories, even played cassette tapes, he said, reminded him of the summer we met. But I was 13. I barely remembered anything except running through trees and waking up cold. I didn't know he was there. I didn't know he remembered. What did he want from you? Anna looked up. He wanted me to stay. Evelyn had heard this before. Not in the exact words, but the pattern. A man not driven by lust or rage, but by fantasy. By a frozen idea of a moment in time. A fixation he never outgrew. And every year he survived in hiding, that fantasy must have grown more real to him than the world outside. Reyes entered the room quietly. We got a hit, he said. From the boot print near the monastery, lab found a match. Evelyn stood. Name. Frankie Lee Dawn, born 1964. Former Forest Services Ranger. No criminal record. Died in 2006. Anna blinked. Then how? Evelyn didn't answer. She already knew where this was going. Reyes continued. Frank had a son. Born 1980. Name was never listed on any school rosters. no health records, no driver's license, no social. We believe he was homeschooled off the grid, lived in a ranger's cabin in the region until the fire in '93. And the son's name, Raymond Dawn. Anna flinched. He used to call himself James, she whispered. Then Daniel. He had IDs, different ones, all fake. But I remember that last name. I saw it on a book he kept, inside the monastery. Evelyn looked to Reyes. Is he our Ray Dawson? Same guy, Reyes said. He adopted the family name of his mother's brother, Ray Dawson. Easier to hide in plain sight. But DNA from the monastery matches traces found on the scarf. It's him. And he's been hiding for decades. Looks that way. Moving from structure to structure. Old parks, forest stations, unoccupied homes, always off-grid. Evelyn turned to Anna again. Do you remember anything that could tell us where he'd go next? Anna hesitated. He had a notebook, like mine, but older, worn. He never let it out of his sight. I only saw one page. It had lists, dates, names. Mine was circled, and underneath it written 3 times. The Hollow, the Hollow, the Hollow. We found you at the Hollow, Evelyn said. Anna nodded slowly. He said it wasn't the real one, that the real Hollow was where everything started, where she said yes. I don't remember saying anything. I don't remember any of that night clearly. But he does. Reyes glanced at Evelyn. There's a place northeast of the original lake house. Locals used to call it the Hollow. The real name was Bracken's Quarry. Dried up in the early 80s. Sinkholes. Dangerous terrain. Perfect place for someone who doesn't want to be found, Evelyn murmured. Or who's already buried something there, Reyes added. They left within the hour. As they drove into the forest, the trees closed in like ribs. Bracken's Quarry was 10 miles off-road, accessible only by dirt path and forgotten logging trails. By the time they arrived, the sun was low. Orange light dripped through the branches like fire. Evelyn and Reyes exited the SUV and scanned the area. No buildings, no fire pits, just open stone and pits of crumbled shale, until they found the rope. It dangled from a high tree limb, frayed at the bottom. Not like a noose, but a tether. Something used to lower someone or something into the quarry, and beside it, fresh boot prints, leading to the edge. They looked down. At the bottom of the pit, a shelter. Stones and wood arranged into a crude dwelling. Smoke still rose faintly from a fire pit. A rabbit carcass hung from a hook. Someone was living down there. He's here, Evelyn said. They radioed for backup, but before they could descend, a noise echoed from below. A man's voice, raspy like dry leaves. She said she'd come back. Then a second voice. A girl's voice, whimpering. Not Anna, someone else. Cliffhanger Reyes turned to Evelyn, eyes wide. There's another girl down there. The moment the girl's voice echoed upward, Evelyn's heart locked into a rhythm somewhere between instinct and dread. The whimper was faint, muffled, but unmistakable. It was the kind of sound made by someone who didn't think anyone was coming. Not anymore. She turned to Reyes. We're not waiting. They strapped on harnesses and lowered themselves into the quarry one at a time. The rock walls closed in like teeth, cold jagged slick with dew. 30 feet down, Evelyn's boots touched the shale floor. Smoke drifted from the low stone shelter. Nearby makeshift fencing, woven branches and wire encircled a crude perimeter. Animal traps, a rusted shovel. A broken child's bicycle leaning against a tree stump. Reyes dropped down beside her. His hand hovered near his holster. They moved in formation steps, slow and deliberate, guns drawn but low. The shelter's tarp entrance was drawn shut. Evelyn signalled Reyes on 3. 1, 2, 3. She yanked the tarp aside. Inside, a girl maybe 10 years old sat hunched in the corner, arms around her knees. Her face was smudged with ash, her clothes damp, but her eyes were clear. Not drugged, not hurt, just afraid. Hey, Evelyn whispered, lowering her weapon. You're safe. We're police. What's your name? The girl blinked. Lila. Are you hurt? She shook her head. Reyes entered slowly. Is he here? The man who brought you? Lila looked past them toward the far end of the shelter. He said he was going to fix the promise. He went to the place where the trees bend. Evelyn froze. The place where the trees bend. That line had been scribbled in one of Anna's journal entries 3 times, circled, underlined. Anna had never explained what it meant, but now Lila was quoting it too. They escorted Lila to the base of the quarry wall and called in a chopper. She'd be airlifted out before nightfall, but Evelyn wasn't leaving. Not yet. Back at the shelter, she scoured every corner. In the centre of the fire pit, she found the remains of burned paper. She used tweezers to retrieve what hadn't turned to ash fragments of journal pages. Anna's handwriting. pages missing from the book they'd recovered. One piece was legible. He keeps asking me what I said, keeps saying I agreed, that night, the lake, but I was unconscious. I never. Another. He says I belonged to the Hollow before I ever left it. Evelyn felt her stomach turn. Ray wasn't just obsessed. He was delusional, building a mythology around one moment in time. He'd convinced himself Anna had made a promise she never remembered, that she'd chosen him, that she belonged to the place, to him. The drone of the rescue chopper faded into the distance. Evelyn stared toward the northern ridge where trees twisted at strange angles bent from old windstorms or sinkhole shifts. The place where the trees bend. She and Reyes moved quickly now, following a narrow game trail. It led to a clearing, and in the centre an old dock rotting barely suspended over black water. The lake was smaller than she expected. Hidden. Still. It wasn't on any map, but it was here, and it hadn't forgotten. On the dock stood a man. Tall, thin, wearing a jacket too old to have colour anymore. His hands hung loose by his sides, and he was staring down into the water like it was speaking. He didn't turn when Evelyn approached. "Raymond Dawn," she called. "Turn around, slowly." He spoke without moving. "She left me once, but I kept her safe. I waited, and she came back. They always come back." Reyes moved to flank him. Step away from the edge. Now. Ray didn't move. "She said yes," he whispered. "She just forgot." Evelyn stepped closer. "Anna didn't choose you, Ray. She was 13. She was scared. She never agreed to anything." He laughed. It was low, hollow. "She did?" She looked me in the eyes and she said, "Don't leave me here alone." That was a promise, and I kept it. He turned then, and Evelyn saw the boy inside him, the one who never left the woods, the one who froze in time just waiting for someone to play the memory back. But what chilled her more was the glint in his eyes, like he still believed it wasn't over. Ray took a step back toward the edge. Reyes raised his weapon. "Don't." But Ray was smiling. She came back, and now, so will the others. Cliffhanger. Ray fell backward into the lake. The water closed over him with barely a splash. Evelyn and Reyes rushed to the edge, but there were no ripples, no bubbles, no sign of him, just the quiet surface, and the reflection of someone standing behind them. Evelyn spun around, gun raised, her finger tensed on the trigger, but there was no one there, only the trees. Twisted and bent like arthritic fingers, the forest closed in behind them, as if mocking their confusion. The reflection in the water had been real. Someone had stood behind them. But in the half-second it took to turn, that figure had vanished. Reyes swore under his breath, scanning the perimeter. "I swear I saw it too," Evelyn said. She crouched by the lake, eyes fixed on the surface. It had already stilled. No bubbles, no movement. Just her own face staring back. Her own uncertainty. Raymond Dawn had disappeared beneath the water, but the lake hadn't returned anything. They called in divers. For hours search crews scanned the lake bed. No body, no clothing. Not a single disturbance beneath the surface beyond the algae and silt. The divers said it was like he'd never entered at all, but Evelyn knew better. He had come here to vanish, to return to the only place he believed he truly belonged. She stared across the black surface and for the first time felt a presence she couldn't explain. Not supernatural, just old, ancient. Something about the lake had been broken for a long time, and Ray had made himself a part of that brokenness. That night, back in Dahlia, Evelyn drove to the hospital to see Anna. The nurses had let her sit outside under the stars, bundled in a coat, sipping weak tea. "They didn't find him," Anna said softly without turning. "No, but we found you and Lila." Anna nodded. She said he called her by my name sometimes. Evelyn's jaw clenched. He was trying to replay it, again and again. "I think..." Anna began, her voice distant. "I think he believed he was saving us. He thought the world was the danger, not him. He saw the lake as a safe place, a memory that couldn't rot, a place where nothing moved forward, where no one left." Evelyn sat beside her. "Then why take Lila?" "Because I left," Anna whispered. And he couldn't forgive that. So he looked for someone else to carry it, someone else to promise. They sat in silence for a while. The stars above Dahlia were faint, washed out by streetlight haze. But the air was still, and for the first time in weeks, Anna looked like she could breathe. Then she said something Evelyn didn't expect. There was a second note. Evelyn turned. "What? In the house?" "The day I disappeared." There were 2 notes on the table. Mine was in the journal, hidden between pages. "The one you found wasn't mine." Evelyn blinked. "Where's yours now?" "I left it behind. I hoped someone would find it before he took it." "What did it say?" Anna looked at her calm now. Just 5 words. The lake doesn't forget anything. Evelyn thought about that as she drove home. Thought about the note on the table, the one Ray had left. How neat it was. How final. And how quiet Anna's real message had been. The next day Reyes called. He'd been reviewing evidence from the hollow, photos, recordings, environmental logs, and something didn't sit right. There's a pattern, he said. Every disappearance in this region, Anna Lila, even a woman back in 97 June. Caraway, they all happened during the same moon phase. Waxing crescent. All within 24 hours of a low-pressure front. Evelyn leaned in. So what you think Ray was following some weather pattern? I think he believed the lake was alive, and those conditions were his signal, like a ritual. They reviewed missing persons data from the past 30 years. 9 other cases emerged. All girls, all within 50 miles of Dahlia, all vanished near water, most never found. But one detail connected them all. Each case ended with a note. A different note. Different handwriting, same message. I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. Exactly the same as the one found on Anna's kitchen table. Ray had been writing them for years. He'd left a trail in plain sight, a false signature. But no one had ever noticed because no one had survived. Until Anna. Until Lila. That night Evelyn retrieved Anna's journal again. She flipped to the last page. Blank, except for a single new sentence written in fresh ink. She hadn't written it. He said he was the hollow. Cliffhanger. That night, a security camera at a ranger station 40 miles north captured footage at 3:17 a.m. A tall man, limping, carrying a lantern. He stopped beneath the camera, stared up at the lens and smiled. Then he held up a piece of paper. It said, "You forgot about June." The paper in the man's hand was unmistakable white, weathered held with trembling fingers just beneath the surveillance lens. Evelyn watched the footage on loop. The smile was worse than any threat. It wasn't a grin of malice. It was calm, pleased. Like a ritual had been completed. Like he was inviting her to watch the next act of a play he'd been performing alone for decades. You forgot about June. June Caraway. She'd gone missing at 22 while hiking the Northern Ridge trails. No body, no leads, just a tent abandoned, and a note folded in her backpack. I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. At the time, it had been ruled a likely suicide. Her brother insisted she wasn't that kind of girl, but there had been no evidence otherwise. No witnesses. The trail had gone cold, but Evelyn knew better now. Ray had been practicing, perfecting, and now he was taunting her. The ranger station where the footage had been captured was deep inside the Pine Brush Wildlife Preserve land closed to the public left to nature. It backed up against a series of ravines and caves too treacherous for casual hikers. No ranger had been stationed there since 2008. By the time local units reached the station, Ray was gone. But something had been left behind. Taped to the inside of the door just below the fuse box, a Polaroid, dated in faded marker. 1697. In it a woman standing knee-deep in lake water. Hands at her sides, her hair long and wet, her face blank, eyes closed. June. She looked peaceful, eerily so. And beside her, holding her wrist just above the surface, was a boy. Or what looked like a boy. His face blurred, like it had moved during the exposure. But Evelyn didn't need it to be clear. She knew. Ray had returned to the lake over and over like a pilgrim. Every decade another girl, another promise, another chapter in a story only he believed in. Evelyn spread the case files on her desk, connected the red string. 9 victims, same radius, same pattern, the waxing crescent moon, the low-pressure systems, the rising water tables. Every time he reappeared, something shifted beneath the surface. Then she found something else, something overlooked. A note from June's brother scribbled into a field report, dismissed at the time as grief rambling. She used to talk about the lake at Bracken, said she felt it watching, that it would whisper when the trees bent. Told me if she ever went missing, start there. But I didn't believe her. Evelyn leaned back. Every girl Ray had chosen had been pulled toward the hollow in one way or another, vacation spots, childhood memories, ghost stories, places near lakes or forests where the air grew thin and the light felt older than it should. Ray didn't just pick them. He called them, planted the memory, fed it, waited. And when they returned, he was waiting too. That night, Reyes called with a grim update. I think he's planning something, he said. We traced the lantern in the ranger station footage vintage model. Only a few sold online in the last 6 months. One shipped to an alias. Paid in cash. Delivered to a Dropbox in Whitechapel County. Evelyn's brow furrowed. That's near the gorge. Exactly. And there's a missing persons report filed 2 days ago. She didn't like where this was going. A teenage girl, 16, Elise Hartley. Parents say she was obsessed with ghost stories, local legends, Said she was going hiking to find the hollow from the story. Evelyn's breath caught. Was that her voice we heard at the lake? Reyes didn't answer. He didn't need to. Zor. They moved before dawn. By 4:15 a.m, Evelyn and Reyes stood at the edge of the Whitechapel Gorge armed with headlamps, radios and a search team of 6. Dogs swept the trail. The drone hovered above, scanning thermal signatures. At 5:09 one of the dogs alerted. They found Elise's backpack first, near the creek bed. Torn, still zipped. Inside, a half-full water bottle trail bars a crumpled notepad. On the notepad, one page ripped out. The next page read, "I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore." Same handwriting, same paper. Evelyn felt her gut twist. Then from the trees, barely audible, came singing. A soft, childlike hum. She raised her hand, froze. The sound came again, near the ravine's base. They moved, down a slope through thornbrush past a ring of ancient stones. The air turned colder, and there, seated beside a still pool of water illuminated by a single lantern, was Ray. He was older now, somehow gaunter. His hair matted, his nails blackened, but his eyes, those eyes still gleamed with the shine of memory, of obsession. Beside him lay Elise, unconscious, breathing, but he didn't move to run. He looked up at Evelyn and Reyes, smiled, and said, this time she really promised, "Cliffhanger." Then with both hands he raised a piece of paper, soaked, folded, shaking, and handed it to Evelyn. She unfolded it slowly. It wasn't a suicide note. It was a letter, signed in a different hand. "Dear Ray, I'm ready to remember. Anna Morell." The letter trembled in Evelyn's gloved hands, its ink bleeding through water-warped paper. Still the words were unmistakable. "Dear Ray, I'm ready to remember. Anna Morell." Reyes leaned over her shoulder, his voice razor-thin. "She never wrote that." "No," Evelyn said quietly, "but he thinks she did." Ray sat in the mud legs, folded like a schoolboy, the lantern casting soft orange light against the pale curve of his cheek. His expression was peaceful, still. "We were meant to finish it," he said. "She promised me." And she remembered. Behind him, Elise stirred, barely conscious, her eyelids fluttering, the side of her face smudged with soil. Reyes moved quickly, kneeling to check her pulse. "She's okay," he called. "She's sedated, but stable." Evelyn stepped forward, still holding the letter. "You forged this," she said. Ray looked at her, blinking, as if the words were foreign. "She wrote it." "No, Ray," Evelyn said. "You wrote it. You wanted it to be true, so you made it true." He shook his head slowly. She remembered the lake, the hollow, me. She came back. You dragged her back. He turned his eyes down to the still surface of the pool. The reflection shimmered. Evelyn saw herself there beside him, distorted, fractured. She said she was scared, that she wanted to feel safe again. Ray's voice was trembling now. "The hollow keeps its promises, the lake remembers. She said it wouldn't forget." Evelyn crouched to meet his eye level. "You were a boy once," she said. "Lost. Alone. You didn't know how to grow past that moment. You lived inside it. You made it your home. But the rest of us left it behind. We had to." He looked at her, confused, like she had just uttered a truth he couldn't process. "She left, Ray," Evelyn said softly. "She survived. You didn't." Tears welled in his eyes, not rage, not malice, but something worse, realization, a shattering. And for a moment he looked tired, like a man waking from a long, terrible dream and seeing the ruin he'd made in its name. "She said she'd come back," he whispered one last time. "She said she wouldn't leave me alone again." Then he let the paper fall into the water. Reyes cuffed him gently, like he was afraid Ray might collapse just from the weight of touch. As they escorted him away, Elise clung to Evelyn's arm, blinking against the morning light. "Where am I?" she whispered. "You're safe now," Evelyn said. "You're going home." Later that week, Evelyn returned to the hospital. Anna was stronger. Her eyes had colour again, her voice steadier. "He's really in custody?" she asked. Evelyn nodded. "He won't hurt anyone else." Anna exhaled slowly. "I used to dream about the lake," she said, "but it was never water, it was glass. And if I looked long enough, I saw his face behind it, waiting, like he never left." "You don't have to look anymore," Evelyn said. "It's over." But Anna shook her head. "No," she said quietly. "It's not over, not really, because someone will read about it. Some girl will see it in a thread or a video, and the story will whisper to her too." Evelyn studied her. "Do you believe that?" "I believe there's something about places like that. Places where pain lingers. It's not supernatural, it's just memory, echoes." Evelyn nodded. "And you survived them?" Anna smiled faintly. "So did she," said, the girl, Elise. "Raymond Dawn was deemed fit to stand trial. He confessed to multiple abductions, though he claimed he never hurt them. In his mind, he was preserving something. A promise. A moment. But juries don't try fantasies, they try consequences. He was sentenced to life without parole. At the sentencing, Anna chose not to speak. She watched from the back row, calm, unreadable. Afterwards, she walked out into the spring sun, pulled her coat tighter and looked toward the horizon, not for danger but for direction. She hadn't written the note they found that day, but she had written her own. Weeks earlier, hidden in the margins of her journal, a promise of her own. "You took my story. I'm taking it back. If this story left you holding your breath, if it haunted you the way it haunted us, leave a comment, tell someone, subscribe for more haunting true stories. You never know who needs to hear the truth before the hollow finds them too."